Have you ever heard of places that feel alive? Places where time stops, sand fear takes over? Tonight, you'll hear 3 terrifying stories that were never meant to be told. A girl who never left the 3rd floor, ... A hotel room no one dares to enter, ... And a house where whispers still echo, ... even after death. If you have the courage, stay until the end. But don't say I didn't warn you. In the summer of 1998, in a quiet city in Hokkaido, a high school student named Motoko Tanaka disappeared without leaving a single trace. She wasn't particularly popular, nor was she isolated, just another face in the crowd. Her teachers described her as polite. Her classmates said she was a little off, but harmless. What no one knew was that Motoko had been writing obsessively in a diary. Pages and pages filled with strange sketches of faces behind glass. Phrases like "she sees me sleep" and "reflections are eyes that never blink." It all seemed like teenage imagination, until she vanished. Weeks before her disappearance, subtle changes started surfacing. She stopped wearing makeup, stopped eating lunch. She'd stare into mirrors for long minutes, not blinking. Some said they caught her whispering to herself in the bathroom, always with the lights off. One girl claimed she saw Motoko tapping on a foggy window pane, in a room with no windows. And every day, at exactly 5:37 p.m., she would stop whatever she was doing and turn her head slowly toward the far right window of the classroom, as if expecting someone to appear. One day, a classmate accidentally read a page from her diary. It described a dream where a pale woman with empty eyes climbed up the school walls, knocking on windows with broken fingers. "She only comes when you notice her," Motoko had written. "That's how she knows you can see." After that, the girl who read the diary refused to come back to school. She didn't say why. She simply stopped talking. Her mother said she'd wake up at night screaming and covering every mirror in the house. On the day Motoko vanished, she was seen standing motionless by the 3rd floor window, staring outside as the sky turned gray. The teacher called her name, but she didn't move. Students said her lips were trembling. Some heard her whisper, "She's right there, right outside. She's smiling now." Then, without a word, she walked out of the room and was never seen again. When her parents went to her bedroom, they found every mirror in the house shattered, except one, the largest one. On it, written in a smear of something dark, were the words, "You showed her your eyes." What followed was chaos. The school tried to keep the story quiet. They sealed the window with wooden boards and covered it with a bookshelf. But strange things kept happening in that classroom. Students who sat near the sealed window reported cold drafts, even in summer. Some claimed to hear soft tapping behind the wall, exactly 3 times. One boy fainted after seeing a face staring at him from the reflection of his phone, even though no one stood behind him. Then there was the substitute teacher. She worked one night grading papers when she heard the knocks. 3 sharp, deliberate taps. She looked up. The bookshelf had been pushed aside. The boards were gone. And standing outside the 3rd-story window was a woman in white, her hair hanging straight and wet, her head twitching slightly, as if hearing a rhythm no one else could. Her smile was far too wide, too curved. It split up past her cheeks. The teacher screamed. When the others arrived, she was curled in the corner, eyes fixed to the glass, whispering, "Don't blink. If you blink, she moves." In the years that followed, reports of hallucinations increased, not just from students, but from janitors and parents. People began claiming that their own reflections weren't moving quite in sync anymore. A split-second delay, a tilt of the head they didn't make. One girl was hospitalized after clawing her own face in front of a bathroom mirror, screaming, "She's wearing my skin." The mirror shattered during the incident, but when staff cleaned it up, none of them could find a single shard of glass. Eventually, the school hired a Buddhist monk to perform a cleansing. But halfway through the ritual, he stopped chanting. His voice went flat. He turned to the principal and asked, "Who opened the 3rd seal?" No one had any idea what he meant. That night, He left the city and was never heard from again. The classroom was permanently locked, but security footage sometimes showed movement inside at night, flickers of motion that didn't match any human form. Then, in 2019, another student disappeared. A quiet freshman boy who had become obsessed with Motoko's diary, which somehow reappeared in the library, despite being removed from evidence years earlier. His last written note was a mirror drawing of the classroom window with the words, "She never left. She's waiting for more eyes." That same night, every window on the third floor cracked simultaneously, without explanation. And now, people say she's moved beyond the school. That once you hear the knocks always three, she can find you wherever there's glass. And she doesn't need a window anymore, just a screen, a reflection, or maybe your eyes. So tell me, have you seen anything strange in your mirror lately? In 2003, a newly renovated hotel in Kyoto began welcoming travelers from around the world. It was praised for its clean rooms, traditional decor, and discreet service. But there was one room that no guest ever dared to mention, room 404. The hotel staff acted as if it didn't exist. Keys for room 404 were nowhere to be found at the reception. Rumors whispered among employees said it was sealed off after a series of strange events. Yet, one unsuspecting traveler, a Chinese vlogger documenting his entire trip, was handed a key to that very room by mistake. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The room was tidy, the air smelled faintly of incense, and the soft hum of the city outside was calming. But on the second night, as he reviewed his footage, the vlogger noticed something chilling. A faint scratching noise coming from the closet. At first, he thought it was rats, but the sound grew louder, more deliberate. His camera, left rolling as he slept, captured a pale figure slowly emerging from the dark inside the closet. Its limbs bending at impossible angles, skin translucent and slick. Its face devoid of features, no eyes, no mouth, just a smooth, wet surface that shimmered under the light. The figure crawled silently across the floor, inching closer to the bed where the vlogger slept. The camera stopped recording after a muffled scream filled the room. The next morning, the man was gone. No sign of struggle, no clues. His belongings untouched. Only the camera remained on the desk, the footage erased except for that last terrifying clip. Hotel staff quickly sealed room 404, plastering over the door and forbidding anyone to mention it. Despite the official closure, strange rumors began circulating. Guests staying near room 404 reported nightmares of being watched, feeling cold breaths on their necks, and hearing 3 distinct knocks on their bedroom walls, precisely at 3:14 a.m. Housekeepers refused to clean the corridor past that door after dark. Security cameras malfunctioned, showing only static whenever pointed at the room. One employee who tried to remove the sealed boards heard a voice whisper in a language no one could understand, begging them not to open the door. A year later, a former hotel maid came forward anonymously. She told a story of a night she entered room 404 to clean while no one was watching. The room was icy cold, much colder than any other part of the building. She saw something moving just beyond the closet door, a dark silhouette, shifting and writhing like smoke. Suddenly, the closet door slammed shut on its own. The maid screamed, running out with her hair frozen in place, her face pale as ash. She quit the job that very day, muttering the same phrase over and over. He's trapped inside, but he's waiting. In the following months, electronic door locks on the 4th floor mysteriously activated at 3:14 a.m., even without power. Guests woke to the sound of dragging footsteps in the hallway, slow and deliberate, followed by the unmistakable pattern of 3 knocks echoing through the walls. A visitor once found a neatly folded, damp towel just outside the sealed door, warm to the touch, as if freshly used. Every attempt to investigate ended in failure. Equipment malfunctioned, lights flickered, and the air thickened with an unbearable weight. More disturbingly, an intoxicated guest once received a phone call on his own device, The caller ID read room 404 on the other end, only heavy breathing, slow, ragged, like someone struggling for air. When the hotel manager checked the records, the room had been closed and disconnected for over 2 decades. The guest checked out immediately, eyes wide with terror, refusing to speak about what he heard. A paranormal investigator who came to document room 404 described his experience in a private journal found later. He wrote of waking to whispers in an ancient dialect, of feeling invisible hands brushing his skin, and of seeing shadows that bent and twisted against the laws of physics. On his last night, the investigator's final entry ended abruptly. "I see him now. The watcher behind the door. He's not waiting anymore. He's coming." The next morning, he vanished without a trace. Local folklore started weaving room 404 into its dark tapestry, a space between worlds, a prison for a malevolent entity who once terrorized a village centuries ago. The number itself, 404, wasn't just about death, it was a curse, a door that should never be opened. And those who dared to cross its threshold never returned as they were. Now, years later, the hotel remains open, except the entire 4th floor is cordoned off. Staff warn guests to stay away, but some say the room still waits, waiting for the next visitor to answer its call, the one who will finally open the door and look beyond the veil. So tell me, if you were handed a key to a room that shouldn't exist, would you dare to enter, or would you run before the knocks begin? Far away in the remote countryside of Gunma Prefecture stands a house that no one dares to approach. For decades, locals have whispered its name only in hushed tones, warning travelers to keep their distance. The Omizawa family lived there, a quiet family of 5. In 2011, police discovered their lifeless bodies seated around the dinner table, eerily pale, with their mouths sewn shut by thick black thread. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, just an overwhelming smell of burnt wax and decayed paper hanging in the air. The basement door was locked from the outside, but officers claimed they heard soft whispering emanating from behind it. When forced open, the basement was pitch black, empty, except for a faint echo repeating the father's name over and over. The official report blamed the father's mental collapse, suggesting he murdered his family and took his own life. But relatives said he was a rational man, tormented by voices only he could hear. Night after night, the father was said to sit by the bedroom wardrobe, listening to the whispers coming from inside. These voices murmured secrets, names, dates, warnings. He became obsessed, scribbling in endless notebooks phrases repeated in trembling handwriting. "Don't stop listening. If you stop, they come." Curiosity drew thrill seekers and paranormal hunters to the ruins. Many returned with fragmented memories and shattered psyches. One claimed to have heard the house breathe, as if alive. Another felt icy fingers tracing the nape of their neck when no one was near. A group of investigators reported a sound that defied description, not words, but a wet, creaking smile, as if the house itself was grinning, silently mocking their intrusion. Attempts to cleanse the property failed spectacularly. In 2015, a group of monks tried to burn it down, hoping the flames would purify the evil within. The fire consumed the wooden beams and collapsed the roof, yet the ground remained soaked, as if the earth itself was bleeding. The air thickened with whispers, carried on the wind, and a local filmmaker who stayed nearby lost his voice shortly after returning to Tokyo. Doctors found nothing wrong. He only scrawled on a notepad, "If you speak, they speak back." Skeptics camped on the burned land, confident they could expose the truth, but after 3 days, all vanished without trace. Their cameras and equipment were found abandoned in the surrounding forest, batteries drained. The only surviving recording device played a haunting loop. "Are you listening now? Are you listening now?" Weeks later, a search dog led its handler to a dense thicket nearby, where dozens of photographs were nailed to trees. Each photo showed people seated around the Omizawa dining table, mouths sewn shut, eyes hollow. Some were known missing persons, while others had no record of disappearance. It was as if the house had captured their souls, binding them in eternal silence. Inside the charred basement walls, scratched into the blackened concrete, someone had etched a chilling phrase: "We whisper so we can stay." Beneath the writing were fresh footprints, leading straight into the solid wall, as if crossing into another dimension. The police found no explanation. Paranormal experts called it a gateway to something beyond human understanding. Locals swear that on moonless nights, you can hear faint whispers carried by the wind, voices that call out names in desperate tones. The house remains a blight on the landscape, untouched, a monument to silence and suffering. No one dares rebuild or even enter the grounds, fearing the curse will spread. And what of the family? Some say they still gather at the dinner table, trapped between worlds, mouths sewn shut to prevent screams from escaping. The house waits patiently for new victims to join the eternal meal, for those who dare to listen and never look away. So now, I ask you, if the house whispered your name, would you listen? Or would you run before the silence consumes you? 3 stories, 3 places, 3 moments when reality broke open. Japan is known for its rituals, its discipline, its culture. But there are places where even the silence feels haunted. Motoko, room 404, the Whisper House. Maybe they weren't just stories. Maybe they were warnings. So tell me, do you really think this is just a story? Are you sure? You're alone right now. Comment below if you've ever experienced anything like this. And if you still have the courage to sleep tonight, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next nightmare.